Welcome back, Chiefs fans. It's day 3. We're going to be jumping in and out of these streams all day long as the Chiefs make their selections. If you want to help us out, you can always check out these guys. Trooper shirts are in the store. I just had to pull mine out because everybody complains. I've been getting this all weekend long. You don't wear red enough. You're not a Chiefs fan. I am a Chiefs fan, but I'm an analyst first. So
I'll say he's trying to remain unbiased.
Right? Oh, man.
Granted, I wear Chiefs hats at literally every single thing, so.
Yeah, it happens. A couple of interesting things have happened here. It looks like we should be getting Danilo in a little bit as well. And you never know who else might pop in. We'll just see if there's any surprises. A couple of things. Marco Wilson went. He was CB1 in the athletic matrix, is a guy that has some issues on the field, a little bit crazy in some of his reactions, but has the athletic upside that I thought the Chiefs might take a gamble on here in the 4th. It's a perfect time for him, so It is what it is. Who else? Let's see. Janarius Robinson went. Somebody, you profiled him and Kando the other day. Danilo's big on Kando as well. So, Jake.
I did have Robinson a bit over just because I think he has more raw upside. Like he's got way more length and things like that. So
I'm going to pull up the board and we're going to share it so we can take a look. The last pick was Royce Newman. Raiders are on the clock. Chiefs are up next.
Yeah, the Raiders just traded in front of the Chiefs.
So they have an idea.
They're going to take a wide receiver. That'd be pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. I'm interested to see what the Raiders are going to do because they felt like they had to get in front of the Chiefs to do it. And I'm not a huge proponent of a lot of the receivers left on the board. Maybe the Chiefs don't even go receiver. Maybe they don't. I would be shocked, but maybe they really think Antonio Callaway is ready to play.
I would be surprised myself, but
I would too, but I'm just saying, like, at this point, I'm not entirely sold on guys that can come in and play X receiver even the next 2 years. Like, it's going to be a little bit weird.
It is definitely going to be weird. Oh, let me get this banner off of here. Folks, if you still need the guide or you want to read up on what we found with those guys, you can always check that out at rogateBC.com, but I'll get that out of the way so we can look at these boards. And I think Danilo will switch over and we'll get him in here in a minute. We all have the boards up here. And when we're looking at the wide receiver group, a lot of these guys are gone. Schwartz, Tylan Wallace went a little bit ago. Fehoko, Shi Smith, Palmer, Edmer Baby's still there. Jacob Harris literally just went 2 picks ago to the Rams. So it's an interesting value here. And there's Danilo. Okay, great. We got everybody in. Perfect. There's going to be, again, folks, there's going to be a different stream link for each round here today because, there's just too much to do it all. How you feeling, Danilo?
I'm feeling good. I saw some of the chat there regarding Nick Bolton. I was just as surprised as anybody about the Nick Bolton pick as I had him about the 4th rated linebacker on my board at the time. And I did about 3 or 4 hours of research last night, and I'm telling you, I kind of turned around a little bit. I saw a highlight reel that I had not have gotten my hands on before, and there were at least 5 or 6 plays of him just destroying people in the backfield. And there was one quote that I got from a specific radio host who covers the Cowboys of all things. So I've been looking at outside sources that analyze linebackers and had them rated high 3 months ago. And just sum it up by reading this guy's quote real quick. This is real fast. He said, Nick Bolton, 6 foot, 203 pounds. He has perfect instincts. He's never wrong. His reaction is immediate. He is a monster. He's just not 6'3" or 240 pounds. He doesn't have long arms, but he hits like a Mack truck. He diagnoses and gets moving in the right direction immediately on every play. He's reliable. He's dependable. He's athletic enough, and he's relentless. And I went back and looked at Andy Reid's history with the Eagles and with us, and there's like 27 times he's had linebackers around that size in his starting lineup. That's an Andy Reid kind of guy. I didn't really clue in on that early on, but apparently that's Andy Reid's favorite size for that guy. So,
I don't recall him ever having a sub 6 foot guy. Do you have any examples?
Yeah,
I don't recall.
I've got Keith Adams 5'11", 223. I've got Brian Roll 5'9", 227. Michael Kendricks 5'11", 240. I mean, there's a lot of guys right at 6 foot. A lot of guys right at 6 foot.
Yeah, Kendrick's played quite a bit for him, so that's a pretty good comp there. Yeah, I like his play. Hey, Clark's on the clock and making the selection now, folks.
Hey, now.
This is our guy, I think, Danilo.
Which one?
The other FSU edge rusher.
Oh, you think it's going to be Josh?
I think it's going to be Kando.
It is. It is Josh Kando from Florida State. You guys both dug him.
We got length. We got crazy athletics. We got eyes. We got 6'8" and change, and he's up to over 270 now. So I'm excited.
That works. Now let's see. Where did you have him? Is this good value for where you guys had him stacked?
This is where I would have taken him. I had him early. I actually would have taken him a little bit earlier in the fourth too. So this works out for me. I had Robinson just a bit higher than him myself, but they're pretty close in what they can do athletically. I think Robinson had a bit more inconsistency in his game, from what I remember. But the flashes are really there. He's like you said, Danilo said, he's got length, he's got size. This is exactly what I expected Spags to want in a defensive end, and they went and they got him. So it's one of the reasons I put both him and Robinson on that video for a day 3 pick, and they turned out to go get one.
Yeah, good for them. I'm trying to look. I don't see him on either of your boards, actually.
I have him on my board. I have him on D line instead of on edge. I have him in the fourth at the top of my list. Fourth was kind of a mishmash, but he was my top guy in the fourth, and I had Robinson on the fourth as my edge, so it's kind of like a flip-flop. There were some of the plays that he made that just kind of sparked, and I had a little bit of an extra ceiling for Josh.
Yeah, I had him in the sixth, a little bit lower, right with Janarius, but hey, it is what it is. The length is undeniable. Let me see if I can pull up the matrix on him, because I think he was one of the guys that kind of stood out more than most. And if we jump back over here, and I get to him, have a look. And so this is what stands out to me. The production isn't there. It's just sharing time. It's FSU. No offense to any Florida State fans out there. There's some issues on that defense and how players are utilized. But this is what stands out to me. He's in the top 10 in the matrix for edge rushers. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. And the number one thing, if you were looking at somebody who is different than Tano Passanio, even Mike Dana, who I think when later in the reps, he's explosive. That's his best trait. You can see that here. He gets off on the ball, and that's what the Chiefs need in order to get into the tackles and actually collapse that pocket in what? 2.4 was the average in the league last year, and most of the Chiefs most of the opponents Chiefs played were faster than that. So I think this is a good pickup.
The two things I kind of love about him is one, it's just an outside thing, is that everything I read, there was a lot of dysfunction in the FSU building. So I take that into account, that some of the players probably weren't happy. You're not playing your best when things aren't running smoothly. And then he has like the D-line equivalent of the peanut punch, in that he'll wrap a guy up, make the guy feel like he's just getting taken to the ground. And most offensive players, you're coached to like be like a drunk driver in a car wreck. Just go limp as you hit the ground so you don't get hurt. But that causes you to loosen up a little bit. About a foot from the ground, he's always trying to whip the ball out of the guy's arm, and he's got a couple where he rips it out right before they hit the ground. So he's got a potential to, like, he's a late fumble causer, and I kind of dig that. So. Yeah,
and that's a skill that is also like acquired later in careers most often, because it's the last thing you're thinking about is you're trying to complete the plays. That's a natural instinct. I like that. Avery, I'm not trying to down your nose there, bud.
It has nothing to do with them. It's just that, I mean, when you look at the organization, when they disrupted everything after they went to the national championship, they've been pretty consistently going downhill over there, and a lot of the defensive issues, they're everywhere. There's coverage busts. There's guys running the opposite way when the ball's going the other way. It's not a very cleanly run organization right now, and it's nothing against them. It's just kind of unfortunate that that's the way it is.
Yeah, they're kind of like Apple. They're the football version of Apple.
Right.
Since the big change, they just kind of are starting to crumble. 55-year-old actors in Hollywood, you're starting to see the lines come out. And it's got nothing to do with the athletes. They're kids busting their butts, So it's surprising.
No, go ahead.
Dan, what's your take? I mean, just looking at Tamarian Terry and Hamza Nasruddin, and those two edges, and the guy they had in the middle there, whose name is escaping me. The D-tack. Like, how are they? That team should be better.
It should be. They have a ton of raw athleticism and like guys that have traits to be first and second round players in the draft, but they're not coached well. They're not coached well. It seems like they don't understand how to use these guys' traits to their advantage, because Robinson and Kendo both should probably be going in the second round. If they're at their potential, I would think that they would be in the second round-ish area for both of them, because they have NFL length, they have NFL size. Kendo actually has a bit more bend around the edge, in my opinion, than Robinson does. And specifically for this defense, it's something they don't have a lot of. And that's going to be useful if they can get him on the outside with Frank. I think that's really what you want to do, is collapse the pocket in that way with Jones up the middle, and then get some bend around the edge to actually get to the quarterback.
Well, and you guys answer me this. I like the fact that this puts a little bit of fire underneath Taco's rear.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a perfect rotation.
When you look at Joshua Kendo, what I saw was this is what they hoped Tana would become. They're built slightly different, but there's a long guy, he's a tall guy. He reminds me, his play effort and play wrecking ability, even though he's a different size guy, reminds me more of Calais Campbell. Like he can wreck an offensive play really quickly, and he doesn't quit. A lot of times those long guys, sometimes not a lot of times, but sometimes those long guys, their motor's not there. I've seen plays where he's like getting double and then he gets triple team and he busts through a triple team. The quarterback's been running for his life and it's a coverage sack, and he had no business making the play because three guys missed it before him. So
yeah, I mean, there are some big highlights. He reminds me of Bolton. There are big highlights and there are plays that just don't work, because I've seen him quit on plays as well. I thought his tape was kind of inconsistent. Okay. And Bolton's a great downhill runner. To go back to what you were talking about before, he comes downhill great. He can't take on blocks. So if he can get to the ball carrier, he's in great shape. It's just a little troublesome when he's in the thick of it. So I like the fact that they want to start him at will and then they'll move him in. I think that's a good plan. Same thing with Kendo. Like, I'd like to see them be supplementing, bring him in, let him have some pass rush only downs, and then bring him over. So I think it'll all work. Your guys' reaction to Brandon's question. Thanks for the super chat, Brandon. It's not crazy, but the cost for Julio Jones is going to be stupid big.
Yeah. And that they can't even really trade him until after the June 1st anyway, I don't think. Or is that both him and Aaron Rodgers? I don't remember. There's a huge cap hit for one of them. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but
Rodgers is for sure.
It's Rodgers, yeah. But I just can't see them wanting to get older, even though Julio is Julio at wide receiver, and a little bit, as much as he hasn't missed games, if you're playing injured at his size, you're not nearly as effective on the field as you could be instead of taking those games off. So, yeah, he plays through his injuries, but I think that he becomes way less effective in those, and that's kind of been obvious on the field, in my opinion. So, I don't
know.
Eric,
sorry, go ahead. I was saying Julio from for me, really quick, I just feel like we're in a different place now than we were 8, 7, 10 years ago. I get frustrated with Clyde over Jonathan Taylor last year. I get frustrated with Nick over certain other guys this year. It's like we got this good instead of this good in my initial analysis. Instead of reaching for like Snoop Minnis and guys like that, we aren't the team that needs to be bringing in aging vets that have injury issues, or reaching for guys that are just athletic but haven't played well. It's a Super Bowl team. So, I'm not into the Julio thing.
Eric, thank you for the super chat. He said, the wideouts seem to be dropping. We should still get good value in the 5th or 6th. I agree. What do you guys think, Danilo?
Really quickly, the guy that I'd be pounding the table for if he's still there in the 5th or 6th, especially the 6th round, but the 5th round. Trevin Grimes from Florida is 6'4", 220, runs in the 4.4s, and the only reason he's not higher, I believe, on the boards is because he was sitting there taking the scraps behind Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney, and he still averaged over 500 yards per season the last 2 years on 30 or 40 catches. That guy is very intriguing to me.
I thought he had a knee injury here.
He just tore his ACL not too long ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's, I think, what's driving him down.
Come back. I'm like, I don't. How long ago was it? I'm going to look it up. I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But Eric, you're right. There's value that's coming down the board. Once again, the Jacksonville Jaguars pissed me off.
What'd they do?
They went and took Luke Farrell, who I thought was going to be a 7th, a guy who can come in and block the snot out of people and has better hands than he looks like. But
They must agree with you because that's exactly what they're doing.
They must.
So the thing with wide receiver for me is I don't think they're getting anybody that's going to come in and really do much in year one. Granted, with the way Andy Reid's scheme is anyway, is probably out of the question. It's a lot of developmental picks, and there's two guys that are closer to about 6 foot, Cornell Powell, Des Newsome, that offer some after the catch ability. But again, they're more possession receivers in the NFL. And whether the Chiefs think that they need that, they have Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle in those two slots really already. So I'm starting to wonder if they even get a receiver. Like, I'm starting to think maybe they just don't need to go for it this year, considering how the wide receivers are going to continuously be deep in every draft from here on out. I just wonder what their thought process is on it.
I'd be interested to see that too. And Michael, you have a good point. Like, we've been talking about the X's because that's the glaring lack, right? There's not that many left. You could put some journeyman question mark there, like Stevenson or Adams or Terry, right? Guys that have a lot of upside and have some athletic traits you like. I think this does come down to athleticism at the end for the Chiefs because it's going to be a late pick.
Yeah.
There are other guys out there that might buck that system, though. Darden already went, a guy that's uber athletic, but really slight in build. Like, you can see these teams making some exceptions. There's Admiral Baby that's still a big guy. There's a couple of guys that I like that are smaller but might fill roles, like Cade Johnson and even Racey McMath, who I think can go out to the X and block well. He's a core special teamer. It might come down to a guy that's going to be the sixth wideout and maybe have a shot at making the roster.
Maybe, and they might just be comfortable with a guy like, Maurice French. I just don't know. I haven't heard much about any of the wide receivers on the roster, and obviously signing DeMarcus back, they probably feel comfortable. And I don't know. I'm a little interested because when they didn't take him and anyone on day two, that kind of signaled to me that they feel comfortable with the clear depth here and they're going to go for like the fifth round ish area, or they're just like, yeah, we're okay with who we got.
It's going to be what it is.
Two things with the wideout spot. I just checked up Trevor Grimes. The ACL injury was 16 when he was at Ohio State, and since then he went to Florida and he's played great and been healthy and put up.
No, I think he did it again since the Senior Bowl.
Pretty sure
okay, well, I didn't find it on the internet, but maybe he did. But okay. And aside from that, French I really like. You look at his pit tape; it's great, and he's been developing. But also, the other thing I've talked about on the show on Chiefs Chat on Wednesday was GMs like Brett Veach and like John Harbaugh, people like that. They're also looking at there's free agency, there's the draft, there's free agency after the draft, there's cut downs, and then there's that sneaky GM free agency where once the final cut downs are made, who's on everybody's scout team? And the Baltimore Ravens have taken 2 wide receivers in this draft. And if you go back and watch James Prochet's college tape at SMU, that's another guy that I got my eye on that if he slides down to the scout team, if we don't take a wide receiver in the draft, that's another guy I'd really like to get our hands on because I've seen him do back shoulder catch, one-arm catches, jumping over. He does it all, and he's quick.
I liked him a lot coming out, too. His tape was good. Gooch, thanks for that one. Gooch, thanks for this one. Glad that you're here. Oh, and hi, Dan.
Hi. Appreciate it.
Stevie, thank you. Opinion on the Raiders' strategy to start 11 safeties. I think it's a risk, but it could pay off. They can run. Mark, thank you for the super chat. How would you compare Bolton to London Fletcher? Also, rough guess, where do the Chiefs go with their 5th round picks? Dan, give me an idea. I don't know. London Fletcher is a stretch for me.
This is an interesting spot now because now you have center off the board. They've already taken a center, linebacker. I think corner's a possibility, but again, we saw Robert Rochelle also go, a guy that kind of just speaks what Spags and them want to do, get a guy who's athletic in the later rounds. I would think corner. That's where I'm leaning right now. Corner, safety. Mm-hmm. Maybe another offensive lineman for depth. But some of those more athletic tackles and things like that also were just going in Josh Ball out of Marshall. So it's interesting because, like we've been talking about, they're going to have best player available pretty much whatever they want to do. And that seems like what they've on their board, what they've taken has been on their best player on their board.
For those that are wondering about the linebacker spot, if they want more depth, Dylan Moses is still out there, right? He's still got injury concerns. Ben Neiman's little brother's out there. if they're looking for core special guys that are lighter, there's Wallow and Fisher that are still out there. I don't know that they double dip at linebacker, but I got a lot of questions about that overnight. And Bolton as London Fletcher, I'm not sure that's a favorable comp. London could stick his face in with guards and come out on the other side. Whereas Bolton's got to go around most blocks. When you watch his film, especially against higher end SEC competition, there's a lot more dicking and dunking, kind of like DJ did in some ways. And that's just what it is. When you're that size, you have to be instinctual. He certainly has that. I think London was a lot more power take on kind of guy. Maybe I'm just not remembering right. I don't know.
No,
Dan wasn't alive, so Danilo.
London was thicker. London was 5'10", 242. Because I looked him up because I heard that comp as well. I heard the Danny Trevathan comp. And I thought back at all the players, and I looked at some tape. The guy, his ceiling, what I think his ceiling could be, and Andy Reid, I thought the same thing as you, Ryan, with the he's more of a dodge blocks and take on blocks, shoot the gap as soon as the hole opens. Those guys are deadly because he's short enough that he can hide behind the defensive line.
Yeah.
And that gap opens, and he hits that hole faster than the running back. It's going the other direction. But I looked around at linebackers, and I'm like, who's 5'11", 6 foot, and in the 228, 235-pound range? Zach Thomas. If this guy can be 90% of what Zach Thomas was, oh my, we're in for something special.
Well, let's hope there's an extra 10% around his skull so he doesn't have that kind of concussion history. But
no, well, he also had the other thing I didn't know about Nick, and discounted him a little bit, is I didn't know he was making all the calls for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to be the guy who makes the calls your final year. You know, coach is trying to help you out, boost your draft stuff. No, he was doing it for 2 years straight. And, you know, for whatever that's worth, they like the leaders. They like the good character guys. He's playing for his mom and his sister are both cancer survivors. That changes a person. That either sharpens your focus or makes you want to do something else. And for him, it seems to have sharpened him up. So
yeah. There's a lot of semblance in those first two picks. Both guys who've been calling plays for their respective sides of the football for quite a while now in Bolton and in Humphrey, two guys that have the intelligence which they clearly think that they need. So I have no issues with the picks. I've been watching more Bolton today, and I'm going to go back to 2019 and see if the defensive switches from 2019 to 20 are what made him a little bit more hesitant, because I was not very impressed with his 2020 so far. So I want to see him when he was a better player, statistically speaking, in 2019, because I'm not getting it from this past year. So I want to see him at his peak, and maybe it's just putting him in the right position to succeed and getting him into what he's most comfortable doing.
Wait a minute. Wait, you mean that when they change an offense or a defense, it affects the players on that side of the ball for a little while?
Oh, just a little bit.
Right.
I think we saw that with Anthony Hitchens, right?
Yeah.
I want to go back to what Danilo said, though. I think that's something that, as I looked at the board again last night, just looking at sheer grades, I think what we didn't count into is that the Chiefs had a specific positional need inside of linebacker. Jabril Cox is not a middle backer. He doesn't call the defense. That's what Damone Clark does. And by the way, you guys, watch Damone Clark next year. You're going to like his game. I think when it comes down to it, that's what probably this class was lacking more so than anything else, is the field general type linebackers. And that's why Bolton probably gets jumped over those guys for athletics and production, because he has that ability.
Definitely.
Now, is it different enough from Hitch? I don't know. I think it's definitely, even if he turns out to be a very similar player, which right now it feels like, but we'll see what he develops into, it's much cheaper. And I think you undo that contract that you gave Hitch, and I think that opens up the rest of the defense.
Save $8.5 million next season,
right?
Sending Hitch on his way. And then I believe that the Willie Gay move was bring in the sideline to sideline athlete, that he's not going to be the leader of men. He's not going to get everybody in position, but he's going to be the best linebacker athletic wise on the field. And then you upgrade Hitch with the guy that's going to call the plays, the guy that's a little more athletic, a little faster, and maybe a little less hesitant, like Hitch was when he was a Cowboy when we picked him up.
Right.
He looks more like that Hitch than the one we have now. So
yeah.
And if that's his baseline, and we're going to go up from there, you know, Spag signed off, Andy signed off, everybody, you know, and the Creed Humphrey thing. I mean, can we talk about Creed?
We're going to be all right. Mike Daniel, I'm glad you pointed this out, because Mukwamu is one of the guys in my tweener group. I should call it hybrid. Tweener's the negative connotation. Hybrid's the good connotation now. He's the hybrid guy. Super long. He can play zone. Like, he can play cover 3 if he's stuck at corner. I think he can be a nice safety that can come down in the box. He's got the size, but he's got to fill out. He's one guy. As we'll finish up here in a couple of minutes. Let's take a look, and then we'll take a break, folks. We'll do another stream when the Chiefs come back on the clock. Couple picks before. But anybody standing out to you guys that's still on the board that you're hoping lasts till the next pick? Dan?
Jamar Johnson would be okay in the 5th round. I think that's a pretty good instinctual kind of defensive back to get. I like Cornell Powell in the 5th a lot. He's one of my guys, as you guys know. Those two probably where I have my eyes on. I would imagine at least Johnson probably doesn't last that long. I think Cornell Powell might. And I was looking at Grimes, and I couldn't find anything on his injuries either. So maybe we got fed something that didn't actually materialize, because I was almost certain he had something with his knee that happened earlier. So no, he'll still be on the board too, probably as a 6th round guy.
And if that's the case, then I'm with you.
I'm on it.
I like his game. He shows up when you're trying to watch Tony.
Yeah.
More so than most. So credit to him. MPAC, what do you got? Thank you. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
It would be pretty worthless for us to jump on this if nobody watched. So, guys, I know it's day 3 and there's 700 of you here. I appreciate that very much. We all do. We all put in the time to research these guys, and I think it's going to be interesting. Let's, Danilo, anybody who stands out to you that you hope makes it to them, and then we'll sign off for a bit and come back on the next stream.
I'd have to look at my original board real quick, because I'm behind on the actual draft. I was following the draft the last 2 days on. What are your top? Let me see here.
Here's your board.
Yeah, I don't know who's gone. I was following along on the TDN board. I was drafting along with it when I did my streams, but I haven't been doing that while we've been talking. And before that, I was looking at other stuff on the guys who already took. I know Tylan Wallace when I liked him. A little later though. This is too early for me. I think I had him listed as possible 3rd because of explosiveness, and Newsome, I went back and looked at tape of him, and he's more of a gadget guy like we already have. Wide receiver, like I said, and I agree with Dan, I don't think it's really a push need. I like Trevin Grimes a lot because of the size and everything, but like you said, if he's hurt, maybe not. Is Keith Taylor gone yet from Washington?
He is not.
I like him, and I like Shakur Brown because I know Marco Wilson's gone. Shakur Brown is a ball hawk.
See, and Shakur's one of the guys that I was going to mention too. Him and Trey. If the Chiefs are kind of waiting out because they feel they want a true nickel guy, those are 2 guys that can walk in there and play that position, and maybe that's why it hasn't been a priority. Mm-hmm. Rochelle went. I think we all have a couple of guys back and forth. I don't think it's a surprise that Ardarius Washington hasn't gone.
Yeah, he's just too small.
Yeah. At the end of the day, there's one other guy I want to say. I like Cade Johnson. I don't think he fits in this group. He doesn't offer you something different from everybody else other than he's a workhorse. And in the tight end group, I like Matt Bushman because I think he can do a little bit of everything. He's probably not as athletic as Blake Bell, but I think he blocks better, and I think he's more mature. Just something to keep an eye out.
Is Kenny still there? Kenny Yeboah?
Yeah, I think Yeboah is still there, isn't he?
Dude.
Yeah, let me check.
Let's get Kenny Yeboah. Let's get Kenny Yeboah in the building and get another guy that wants to hit people in the face and can actually run past people. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's see. We had Granson go off. Bates went off. I was really surprised by that. Then Farrell and Jordan. So yeah, Kenny is still out there. So folks, we might be looking at tight end when we come back. If you haven't seen the link, it's going to be out there. We will be back about a couple picks before the Chiefs select next, unless they trade back up in. Yes. I've got some kids competing in sports today, so I'm going to be doing that in the meantime. But thanks for jumping in and out today, guys. That's been great so far. And for all of you watching, thank you for being here. Give us, till a couple picks before then, and we'll be back. Check the next link. Let's see. Any parting thoughts as we go now? What don't you want to see happen between now and the next pick for the Chiefs?
At this point, At this point, whatever happens. It's just day 3. I'm a little surprised he hasn't traded up yet. So that's one thing I'm kind of waiting for. Brett's just sitting on his hands like, I'm not doing it.
That's kind of what I was going to say. I hope they keep letting the draft come to them because it seems to be working out. And some of the guys were concerned in the chat I saw when we first started that that it was a matter of the Chiefs just kind of taking those guys because they were there and they didn't get a trade. What I took, the way Brett said it, it was like it didn't materialize, and then they were stunned that Bolton was still there. They were trying to trade earlier to get the trade out of the way in advance, and they didn't think Bolton and Creed Humphrey were going to be there, and they were amazed that we got those two guys. So I'm excited that two of my draft crushes are now Chiefs, Creed Humphrey and Josh Cainville. So
we're off and running. Folks, thank you for watching this one. We'll be back in a little bit. Check the next link, and we'll see you then.